When you think of rich people, what do you think of? Huh? Lavish lifestyle, you think of people like Donald Trump. My sermon title is Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Anybody remember that show in the 80s? This is the lifestyle of the rich and famous with Robin Leach, right? With Robin Leach. I remember watching that show and loving it, thinking I wanted to be rich and famous. I wanted to be just like that. And you know, a lot of people in the world today live as if they're rich and famous, and they think they are, but they are really, they're going to be in for a shock when they go to heaven. There is something that I wanted to show you as a church. These pictures are actually pictures of the German camps. And by the way, this was 2007. Sorry, this was opened up to the gallery in 2007. And these are actually German women, and these were the German men. It says one of the 116 photos, SS auxiliary sit on fence railing in Solahut. It's German words. It's hard. Mike, you're going to have to help me. You're the one who can. Anyway, Solahut, an SS resort located 30 kilometers south of Auschwitz, where they enjoy blueberries given to them by Karl Hocher, the camp's adjunct camp commander. So he's the camp commander. Look at his smile. I mean, these photos were amazing because if you keep going, let's go to the next. Look at the girls laughing. These were the commanders taking a break. They're obviously, this guy's smoking a cigarette. He's taking a break while, what they're doing. Camp Commander Richard Baer, notorious concentration camp Dr. Joseph Mengele, and the commandant of the Birkenau camp Joseph Kramer, and former commandant Rudolf Haas. So all of these guys, I mean, just look at their smile. Look at their, as you know what's going on. They're killing like millions of Jews. And yet there's just this smile, this like life is great, right? Let's keep going. Next picture, and thank goodness there's not too many, 15, but again, they're taking a break, smoking on the grounds of Auschwitz. Let's keep going. This is a retreat, an actual retreat where they built right outside of Auschwitz, and they built like this beautiful retreat home, kind of like when we went to Broken Bow. We had a nice little house. Well, these were German, wives of German soldiers, commanders, with their babies, with their children at these retreat centers. Loving life, having a great time. Let's continue going. That's the retreat center. Look at how beautiful it looks. And a few miles away, I mean, they're killing millions and millions of Jews. Let's continue on. This is their break time. Between the times of their killings, they would gather together, and this guy is what is that? Accordionist. He's using an accordion and he's playing, singing songs. I don't know what songs they would be singing, but just to celebrate. And again, you could pass this one. This is another just couple of photos. Taking a beer break, with cigarettes and enjoying on a patio. This was kind of interesting, with the ladies and men posing together, and look at their smiles and their laughter, and like everything is going well, right? And then this is the final one I wanted to show you. It was this guy, Christmas 1944, Karl Hocher, which is one of the general commanders who ordered the killing of these Jews. What is he doing? He's lighting the candles of a Christmas tree. In that email that was sent out, it's like a weekly or devotional kind of email that this man Pete Scazzaro, he's a pastor at New York City, New Life Church, this email he sends, he looks at those pictures and he says, how many of these men and women do you think was baptized in the church? Baptized, and they were, they went to church all their life, and and life was just, he looks at them and he says, probably most of them. Did you know that Adolf Hitler grew up in the Catholic Church? Did you know that? He grew up in the Catholic Church, and he was most likely baptized and confirmed and all that stuff, because by the age of 13, you have to have gone through all of that to be a good Catholic little boy. Adolf Hitler called himself a Christian and went to church. And yet these men and women who in 1 minute they're gas chambering millions of Jews and steamrolling over them and shooting them in line. And yet they're putting up Christmas lights like few months later, as if nothing happened. So this email was very poignant because he notes how many of these people who are laughing in these pictures do you think consider themselves as good Christians? Just doing what the state tells us. Hey, Hitler's our leader because Hitler told us we should do it. And so they went on their merry way, and they were laughing and playing and giggling as they did all these things. James talks about these type of people, and he calls them the rich. Let's read it in James chapter 5, verse 1. James says in chapter 5, verse 1, I'm reading from the NASB version, "Come now, you rich, weep and howl for your miseries which are coming upon you." What are these? What is the rich? And what are these miseries that are coming upon us? Well, he starts to unfold that in verse 2 and 3. This is who the rich are. Verse 2, "Your riches have rotted, and your garments have become moth-eaten. Your gold and your silver have rusted, and their rust will be a witness against you and will consume your flesh like fire. It is in the last days that you have stored up your treasure." Let's stop right there. How does James here describe the rich people? He doesn't describe them as people who live in mansions or, who drive nice cars, or maybe at that time nice donkeys, or who had a lot of farm animals. He doesn't describe them as that. He describes them as what they own. Look at what it says in verse 2. "Your riches have rotted, and your garments have become moth-eaten. Your gold and your silver have rusted, and their rust will be a witness against you." I thought about this for a moment as I was preparing this. I prayed and I said, God, what do you mean by what type of person do you have to be that your gold and silver actually rust? Think about that question. That was the question that was posed to me. As I asked God, I said, God, who are you talking about when you talk about rich people? So do you mean everyone who is rich dies and, is going to be like this? So you mean like Donald Trump's, the Leona Helmsleys, the Bill Gates, and what's the Facebook kid's name? Mark Zuckerberg. So you mean to tell me that all these people, because they're rich, they're going to die like this? They're going to be unhappy and die like this? The answer is no. What type of person do you have to be so, to let your gold and your silver rust? How does anything rust? Huh? Good. Greedy and what? Hiding and hoarding it. Oh, Martha, that's great. By the way, you look beautiful today. I don't know what you did to your hair, but you look fantastic. What? She's right. What? Listen, do you see what the Lord is saying? For anything to rust, you ever seen a car rust? How does a car rust? When it's sitting in that shed for like years and years, and it's never being moved, or it's never being oiled, it's never being shined or buffered, right? It's just sitting there. Do you know who James is describing as the rich people? The people who are hoarding their money and keeping it for some reason and not even using it, and it's stored up somewhere where it's gathering rust. Same thing with the clothes, the garments that the moth eat. Can I ask you something? Which clothes does the moth eat? The ones that's been sitting in your closet for a very, very long time. What are clothes made for, ladies and gentlemen? Huh? It's to be worn. They were bought to be worn. And when I see men and women who say, oh my God, they look in their closet and and they say things like, oh my goodness, I have nothing to wear. I am just flabbergasted. I wear the same clothes every day and I'm fine with it, okay? I don't understand those people who have all these piles and piles and piles of clothes and they just sit there like, oh my goodness, I have nothing to wear today. Oh my goodness. Then wear the clothes that's folded, that's in front of you, that hasn't been touched in a long time. Oh, no, but that's Chanel. Oh, no, but that's Burberry. I can't. That's only for special occasions. People who hoard money and never use it, people who have a bunch of clothes and never wear it. What's one way to describe these people? Responding in fear. Very good. Who someone said cold? Cold. What else? I think selfish. We'd be a selfish church. All about our little kingdom, our little, building here. And, oh, how dare they, steal something from us as if it's ours to begin with. I mean, that's the type of attitude. And you look at a person who has these things and their gold and their silver have rusted because they never want to use it, but they want to save it for another rainy day or whatever it is. You know what? In the end, their rust, it will be a witness against them and it will consume their flesh like fire. Do you know what it's like for a person? Have you ever met someone who has a lot of money, but they're so nervous about losing it? What do? What do they worry about? You know these millionaires who have millions of dollars? Do you know they have so much money that they actually start to spend money on what? On protecting the money that they have. And so they spend even more money and more money. And you know what? I hear most of these millionaires that spend money on protecting the money that they're trying to protect, they can't sleep at night. They can't sleep at night because they're so worried. This is what James is talking about. It says, this will consume your flesh like fire. You keep things for yourself, you become selfish, then you know what? The very thing that you're protecting, the very thing, it will consume you like fire. For us men, we just bought a brand new car. Think about how you act when somebody in the parking lot opens the door so quick and it dings your car. It already happened. See, you're a girl though, you don't care. Guys, you know what? Us guys, we park purposely on the corner all the way at the end. And I just saw this. My wife and I had a date, coming back from, we had I Love Pho, right? We went to I Love Pho, and there was a brand new Honda Pilot, EX whatever. It must have been a $40,000 car. It wasn't even a Lamborghini. He parked in the middle of two lanes. In the middle of two lanes. And I said, honey, this guy, I bet you he's Asian. I bet you he's Asian. And you know what? The guy who pulled out, guess what? He was an Asian. He was, I'm not going to say which Asian, but it ain't Korean. It's the cheap Asians. I'm telling you, dude, I was so mad. Honey, do you remember? I was so mad because this guy, he took two spaces. And there was a family with a baby who could have used that space. It was right in front of the door of I Love Pho. Could have been a family who could have used that space. But this guy, because he was a brand new car, and you know what? It's so funny. 10 years later, that Honda Pilot is going to be a piece of trash, like every other car. How much do you have to buff it? How much do you have to clean it to really make it still look like new? Because you know what, at the end, and what does this guy do? He takes two spaces and he cares so much about this car that he probably can't sleep at night. Huh? Thank you. I hope everybody knows that buying a new car is mostly a waste of money. Because when you buy a brand new car, as soon as you drive out of the lot, it loses 20% of its value. So if it was $40,000, well, guess what? You drive it out of the car, it's already $32,000. That's all you're going to get for it. Right? Is my math correct? Yeah. You already lose that much money. So what is the point of hoarding these things when it's going to consume your flesh like fire? It is in the last days that you have stored up your treasure. James is saying we are living in the last days, ladies and gentlemen. We are living in the last days. And what are you doing? Where is your treasure? Where is your hope? Here is now an explanation of even further of who the rich are, how they act. Look at what it says in verse 4. Behold, the pay of the laborers who mowed your fields, and which has been withheld by you, cries out against you, and the outcry of those who did the harvesting has reached the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. You have lived luxuriously on the earth and led a life of wanton pleasure. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. Behold, the pay of the laborers who mowed your fields, the people who did their hard work, and which has been withheld by you, cries out against you. What type of guy, what type of man or woman is he describing, James, here? What kind of guy does not pay his own workers? Or even, let's say even, you know what, I've been in businesses, I've seen businesses that are run by Koreans. Koreans are bad at this. I'm going to call us out on this. You were going to say that, right? Miss Cho, can you share? I think I know exactly what you're going to say. Share. What are you going to say? Exactly what it says, right? Do you know that there are some Korean workers, like some Korean owners, who have businesses and they hire illegal immigrants, like the Mexicans, and they don't pay them. They don't pay them a right salary. They pay them cheap, dirt cheap, right? Huh? Yeah? Patel Brothers? Okay, don't shop there again then? Is that what we're saying? No, Patel Brothers. So, no, share with me. Share with me. What do they do?
Pay of $5 illegal, especially the students that came from India and Pakistan, $5, and they work 14 hours.
14 hours they will work and they only pay them $5 an hour? Less than minimum wage. Less than minimum wage. But still, that's lower than that's less than what they should do. And why? Why does people like these Korean business owners, the Patel brothers, why do they do this? To maximize profit. It's greed. That's what's driving these people. And you know what? What James is saying for those people, you have lived luxurious, verse 5. I'm sorry, I want to finish with this. And the outcry of those who did the harvesting has reached the ears of the Lord of the Sabbath. Do you know every person you mistreat, they are crying out, why did they do this to me? Why do I have to live this tough life in America? I thought America was a land of the free and it was a land of plenty and I have to live like this. Do you know their cries reach out to the heavens? Do you know our God is big enough to hear the cries of the Muslims, the Christians, the Jews? Don't you think that when these Jews in Auschwitz were dying, do you not believe that God was listening to them? He was. And He still does. God listens to the cries of every Syrian refugee that is out there. God listens to the cries of every Mexican illegal immigrant. God listens to the cries of every Indian or Pakistani who's come here trying to live a good life. And yet you have these people who are up above and they try to extort them. And they hoard their money. They try to save their money. And you know what? They try to get more and more money. And they can't even sleep themselves. Because James says, verse 5, you have lived luxuriously on the earth and led a life of wanton pleasure. What you are doing, what these men and women are doing, they are fattening their hearts in a day of slaughter. You know what they're like? They're like farm cows that are being fed all their life so that one day, what do? Eventually, they go where? Cut their head off, and they use the fat. You know, that's what their life is. And I look at verses like Proverbs chapter 3, verse 27. Look at what it says in the Old Testament. By the way, I hope you guys did do your research last week. I said that Solomon, I think Socrates and all these Greek philosophers got their wisdom from Solomon. I truly believe that. And guess what? Solomon dies like 880 BC, and Socrates was living in 400 BC. So 400 years after Solomon and all his wisdom, Socrates says, you know, what is the secret of life? To know thyself. Well, sorry, Proverbs already said it. Solomon already said that. Remember, we went through that. The beginning of wisdom is this, to know oneself. That's what Proverbs says. Chapter 4, verse 18. It's all there. Well, look at what Solomon says. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to act. When you have the power to do something and you don't do it, you're responsible. You're just as responsible. And this is what Isaiah chapter 1, verse 16 and 17 says. Wash and make yourselves clean. How? How do we make ourselves clean? Take your evil deeds out of my sight. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow. Micah 6, verse 8 says the same thing. I didn't write it down, but it says the same thing. Love mercy, do justice. I think the Bible in the Old Testament can be summed up in one ways. It can be summed up in a lot of ways. But one of the major themes in the Old Testament is this: do what's right. Do what is right. That's what God commands. We've mistaken the Old Testament as a set of rules. Like, don't smoke, don't drink, don't go out, don't party, we've made it into a set of rules. That's not what God was wanting. What God was wanting was do justice. If you see something that's going wrong, do what's right. And your treasures will not be here on this earth, but it'll be where? In heaven. We look at these people in Auschwitz. I don't know, as they're laughing and they're throwing up their babies in joy and they're at these retreat centers and you see these laughter. Yet right down the block, they're steamrolling over millions of Jews. They're putting them in gas chambers. They're killing them. Because why? Because Hitler says that Jews are a less of a breed than us Aryans? Than us white, Germans? Does anybody remember the names on the list of those people that were laughing? They're having their merry time, but in front of God, when they had to answer to God of how they lived their life, what do you think God's going to say to them? Thank you so much. Every tear from these Jews, every tear from the illegal immigrant Mexicans, every tear from the Indians, the Pakistanis, every tear from the Koreans that immigrated here in the 70s, every tear is recorded. Thank you, Karen. 6 million Jews died there. 1 million in Auschwitz alone. Auschwitz was the largest concentration camp. 1 million plus died there, and every 1 million tear was shed. Don't you think God heard this? So what do you think those German SS commanders, what do you think they're going to say in front of God? They believe in Jesus too, right? They were Christians. They were raised in the Catholic Church. What do you think they're going to say? When it's time for God to say, you know what? What have you done? Or is he going to say, good, well done, my good and faithful servant? Or is he going to say, get away from me, I don't even know you? And this has to wake us up in the church. Because our churches act like this. We do our singing and dancing, and we have our Easter festivals, and we have our Christmas pageants, and we have all these things, and we're laughing, and we're having so much joy, right? But are we worried about, are we even considering the cries and the tears from the Mexican illegal immigrants that are living here, and they have nothing to... They're stuck in the middle. They can't call the cops, because if they call the cops, you know what? They're going to be taken away from INS, right? So they can't complain about their boss, but you know what? The only people who's going to hire them are these greedy people who only wants to pay them $4 an hour, knowing that these people cannot do anything about the situation. So they take advantage so that their wallets get fatter. Are we addressing this in the church? There's a lot of Syrian refugees that are coming in. There's a lot of things that's going around in the world. And we cannot, listen, all of us, from Jen all the way to Tay, we've been given so many talents and gifts. And I don't want us to live our life dancing and smiling and thinking everything is okay. And then at the end of the world, we look in front of God and He's going to be like, what did you do? I don't want us to be the one talent guy who said, I dug up the talent because I was so afraid of you, of what you're going to say to me. I dug it up and I put it, and here it is. Here's the one talent back. No. He's given us talents to pray for people, heal them. I mean, just the other day, you were talking about, the guy who had a bandage right down the block. That's using our talents. Going and using our job to glorify God, which I know Rohil and Richard and Mike do. And the talent, Miss Cho and Martha, Miss Cho has a talent to pray. So she uses her talent to pray for our church. And all of these talent, every single one of us are talented in so many ways. And the other person who I can't name, but that person was praying and said, you know what, I really feel like God is telling me to bless Rohil's family. Where did that come from? This is before that even happened. And yet, through that, what did they do? They didn't keep their money for themselves. They used it to bless others. And look at the blessing that has come because of that. And now there's more people who need our help. Tay, are you okay? You just got into an accident this weekend. A really bad car accident. But you're good. By the grace of God. But I'm sure there's something that we can do to help. And we will. Not only through prayers, but all the other things. And this is how we start building this here. We build each other up. And you know what? Once God keeps building us up, we go out to do this. And the things that God has in store for what, Ella and Ju are praying through right now with, what we have for children and the inner city youth, the vision that we have for them to serve them. And then all other things. Now, the other groups that we're going to be reaching out to. All of that must come through prayer. It has to. And by the way, don't be deceived. Don't let it come out of your own I'm excited, let's do this. Even the garage sale or the spring sale. That's a great idea. But let's first pray into it. And say, God, is this your will? What did we learn last week? We learned last week, don't say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to go there and I'm going to make a lot of money. Don't do that. What did we say? If the Lord wills. If it's to God's will, that we will do this and we will do that. Let's pray today. Let's pray. I want us to be ministered by that song, Turn Your Eyes. I really love that song. You were thinking the same thing. Hallelujah. Because what God is doing in this church is He's bringing our hearts together. He's knitting our hearts together. And that song today is very important because if our eyes are always on the things of this world, or even, I just love. Man, I love the McLaren family. Stephanie, thank you for saying what you said. If we keep our eyes so much on the gifts and not the giver, we're missing out. We miss out. That's why it's important that we turn our eyes to Jesus. It doesn't say turn your eyes to the miracles. It doesn't say turn your eyes to the goods of this world. It doesn't say turn your eyes to the riches and the glory that's found in evangelism, of being an apostle. It doesn't say any of that. It says turn your eyes unto Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace.
Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of the earth will grow strangely